Albus Dumbledore is not the opposite of Lord Voldemort. He is the better version of the same thing. Most people spend all 7 books reading Dumbledore as the hero, the wise old man, the one Voldemort feared, the guardian standing between darkness and the world. And when the series ends, most people close the book feeling like Dumbledore was right about everything, and that his methods, however painful, were ultimately justified because they worked. But I want you to think about that word for a second. Justified because they worked. That is not the argument of a hero. That is the argument of a villain who won. And here is what I found when I went back through all 7 books carefully. The most damning evidence against Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore is not what he did. It is one single word, said by Dumbledore himself. In a conversation most people read once and immediately move past, and when you understand what that word means in context in the exact scene it appears in, you cannot ever look at him the same way again. We are going to get there. But I need to take you through this properly, because the argument only lands if you see the full picture. Let us begin. Part 1. What makes someone a villain? Before I make this case, I want to be precise about what I am arguing. I am not arguing that Dumbledore was evil. Evil is too simple. Voldemort was evil. Bellatrix Lestrange was evil. They wanted darkness for its own sake. They celebrated suffering. They found power in cruelty. Dumbledore was not that. What Dumbledore was is something more specific and in many ways more dangerous. He was a man who decided that his vision of the right outcome was worth whatever it cost the people around him to achieve it. He decided alone, without asking permission, that the ends justified the means. That is not heroism. That is the definition of a villain. And here is what makes this so uncomfortable. Albus Dumbledore was not the first person in the wizarding world to operate this way. His motto, the principle he and his closest friend built their entire worldview around in their youth, was for the greater good. That phrase, for the greater good. He shared it with Gellert Grindelwald. He embroidered it onto letters. He believed it so completely that he and Grindelwald designed an entire plan around it. A wizard uprising, Muggles brought under magical control, a new world order built on the idea that someone wise enough and powerful enough had the right to decide what was good for everyone else. Their summer in Godric's Hollow was built around this philosophy, until tragedy shattered everything. Then, Ariana died. Then Dumbledore spent the rest of his life trying to be better. But here is my theory, and I want to be clear that this is my reading of the evidence, not confirmed canon. I believe Dumbledore never actually abandoned the philosophy. I believe he just got better at hiding it. He stopped calling it for the greater good. He started calling it love, and sacrifice, and the greater good, and necessity. He wrapped it in warmth and twinkling eyes and lemon drops. But underneath every single decision he made for 60 years was the same calculation he made at 17. He knew what the right outcome was, and he was willing to use whoever he needed to get there. Part 2. Number 4. Privet Drive. On the 1st of November 1981, Albus Dumbledore placed a baby on a doorstep in Surrey. Before he did it, Minerva McGonagall, who had been watching the house all day, told him directly that the Dursleys were the worst kind of muggles imaginable. She said Harry would be famous. She said he would be better off somewhere else, with people who would cherish him. She begged Dumbledore to reconsider. Dumbledore left Harry there anyway. Now, the standard defense of this decision is that the blood protection required it. Lily Evans Potter died protecting Harry, and that protection was anchored to the blood she shared with her sister Petunia Dursley. As long as Harry could call his aunt's house home, the protection held. Voldemort could not touch him there. That part is true, the blood protection was real, and it mattered. But here is what that argument does not account for. Dumbledore did not just leave Harry with the Dursleys for the blood protection, he left him there for 10 years. Without visiting, without checking in, without sending anyone to make sure the child was not being locked in a cupboard under the stairs. McGonagall's warning was not the only one he received. Dumbledore knew from his correspondence with Petunia that she was afraid of magic, resentful of her sister, and fundamentally hostile to anything connected to the wizarding world. He knew who these people were, and he chose them deliberately. Because here is what Dumbledore needed from Harry Potter. He needed a boy who would arrive at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry desperate to belong. A boy with no attachment to the ordinary world. a boy who had been so thoroughly made to feel like an outsider in one place that he would run toward the first place that felt like home and never look back. A child who grows up loved does not give everything away without asking questions. A child who grows up starved of love gives everything to the first person who offers it. Dumbledore needed Harry loyal, and the Dursleys guaranteed it. Part 3. The Outcast Collection. Look at the people Albus Dumbledore surrounded himself with. Rubeus Hagrid, expelled from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry at the age of 13 on the false charge of opening the Chamber of Secrets. Half-Giant, unemployable everywhere except Dumbledore's groundskeeper, loyal to Dumbledore with an absoluteness that borders on religious. Why? Because Dumbledore was the only person who ever believed in him. Remus Lupin, a werewolf, shunned by the Ministry of Magic, unable to hold a job, living in poverty. When Dumbledore offered him the defense against the dark arts position at Hogwarts in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling, Lupin had nowhere else to go. Dumbledore was his only advocate. Of course he was loyal. Severus Snape, a man in love with a dead woman, a former Death Eater with blood on his hands who had burned every other bridge he had. Dumbledore offered him a place, a purpose, and a way to make his guilt mean something. Snape gave him 17 years of service so dangerous and so complete that it cost him his life. And Harry Potter, an orphan, a child who slept in a cupboard, a boy who had never once been told he was special until a giant broke down a door on his birthday and handed him a cake. Even Hermione Granger, the brilliant witch who became Harry's closest ally, found her way into this inner circle through her fierce loyalty to Harry, a loyalty that made her indispensable to Dumbledore's plans. This is not a coincidence. This is a pattern. Dumbledore collected people who had no one else, people who owed him something they could never repay, people whose loyalty was guaranteed not by admiration, but by need. He built the most effective fighting force in the wizarding world out of people who had nowhere else to turn. And I do not think he did this by accident. Part 4. The education he chose not to give. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince by J.K. Rowling, Albus Dumbledore begins meeting with Harry privately. He takes Harry into his memories. He shows him Tom Riddle's history. He explains the theory of Horcruxes. This is year 6. Harry Potter is 16 years old. Dumbledore has known about Horcruxes for considerably longer than 1 year. He destroyed the diary Horcrux, the one created from 16-year-old Tom Riddle's memories, years before Harry's first year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. He found the ring Horcrux, the one containing the Resurrection Stone, one of the 3 Deathly Hallows, at the beginning of Harry's 6th year. He knew. He had known for years, and he chose not to tell Harry until the last possible moment. Why? The standard answer is that Harry was not ready, that Dumbledore was protecting him, that the information would have been too much too soon. But consider what that protection actually looked like in practice. Harry Potter spent 5 years at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry facing down basilisks, dementors, Death Eaters, and the Dark Lord himself. He survived the Triwizard Tournament. He watched Cedric Diggory die. He was present at Voldemort's resurrection in the graveyard of Little Hangleton and Harry Potter, and The Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. He watched Sirius Black fall through the veil. And through all of it, Dumbledore decided he was not ready to know the truth. The truth that would have changed everything. That would have given every sacrifice meaning before it happened rather than after. And then there is Sirius. Sirius Black spent 12 years in Azkaban for a crime he did not commit. Peter Pettigrew was the secret keeper. Peter Pettigrew faked his own death and spent 12 years as Ron Weasley's pet rat, Scabbers. Dumbledore had the Marauder's map. He had access to information that most people in the wizarding world did not. And he never, in 12 years, found a way to investigate Sirius's conviction. An innocent man rotted in the worst prison in existence. And the most powerful wizard in the world watched it happen. Before we continue, only a fraction of you watching right now are subscribed. If you want to hear the single most chilling word in all 7 Harry Potter books, and the moment it proves everything I have been building toward, subscribe right now so you are there when the next one lands. Part 5. The Word. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling, Harry views the memories of Severus Snape in the pensieve after Snape's death. And in those memories is a conversation between Snape and Dumbledore that most people read once and never fully absorb. Dumbledore reveals to Snape the full truth, that Harry Potter carries a piece of Voldemort's soul inside him, that Harry must die, that when the time comes, Harry must be allowed to face Voldemort without the knowledge that he is walking to his death. And Severus Snape, a man who spent 17 years protecting a boy he openly despised because that boy had his mother's eyes, turns to Dumbledore and says this: "You have been raising him like a pig for slaughter." Read that sentence again, not as a dramatic line from a film. As an accusation, a man who has given everything, who has lived in constant danger and constant guilt and constant grief for 17 years, accusing the man he served of deliberately cultivating a child for sacrifice. And Albus Dumbledore's response: "Precisely. Not I know. Not I'm sorry. Not it had to be done. Precisely." That word, that single word, is Dumbledore confirming the accusation as accurate. He is not deflecting it. He is not softening it. He is agreeing with it and stating it as the correct description of what he had been doing. He had been raising Harry like a pig for slaughter, and he had done so precisely, deliberately, with care and intention and 17 years of patience. That is not the response of a hero who made hard choices. That is the response of a man who never lost control of the plan. Part 6. The Mirror and the Socks. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling, Harry finds the Mirror of Erist. The mirror shows the viewer the deepest, most desperate desire of their heart. Harry sees his parents. He sees himself surrounded by family. He keeps going back until Dumbledore finds him there. Dumbledore explains the mirror, and then Harry asks him what he sees when he looks in it. Dumbledore says he sees himself holding a pair of thick woolen socks. He says this with a smile. He says it gently. He moves on. He is lying. Dumbledore does not see socks. Dumbledore sees Ariana alive. He sees his family whole, with his brother Aberforth no longer estranged from him. He sees Grindelwald. He sees the boy he loved at 17, and the future they planned together before it collapsed into tragedy and death, and 60 years of guilt. He sees the deepest desire of a man who has spent his entire adult life atoning for the worst moment of his life. He lies. To an 11-year-old. About the most revealing magical object in Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, in a conversation designed to be reassuring and wise. And he does it with a smile. This is the detail that always gets me. Not the Horcruxes, not the Dursleys, not the pig for slaughter, the socks, because the Mirror of Erist reveals who you actually are. And what Dumbledore does in that moment is prove that even in small things, even in a gentle conversation with a lonely 11-year-old, he cannot stop managing the information, cannot stop controlling what people know about him, cannot stop calculating how to be perceived. It is reflexive, it is total, and it is the clearest window into who he actually is. Part 7. The Verdict. So, is Albus Dumbledore a villain? I want to be honest with you about something, because this is the part where most videos of this type make a mistake. Dumbledore loved Harry. I believe that. I believe he loved Harry deeply, genuinely, in a way that cost him something. The memory in the pensive, the look on Dumbledore's face when Snape casts the silver dough, the way he speaks about Harry at the end of Half-Blood Prince. These are not the actions of a man performing care. They are the actions of a man who is genuinely, painfully aware of what he is doing to someone he loves. That is what makes him a villain. Not a lack of love, not a desire for evil, not a plan to cause suffering for its own sake. The fact that he chose, knowing the cost, looking at Harry Potter, who he loved, and deciding that the child's suffering, the child's death, the child's entire life shaped around a purpose Harry never consented to, was acceptable, was necessary, was right. He decided that alone, without asking Harry, without telling Harry, without giving Harry the choice that Lily Potter was given, and that Harry would ultimately have to make without any of the information he deserved. Voldemort decided the world should be shaped according to his vision, regardless of the cost to others. Albus Dumbledore decided the world should be shaped according to his vision, regardless of the cost to others. The difference between them is not method. It is not philosophy. It is not even intent. The difference between Albus Dumbledore and Lord Voldemort is that Dumbledore was right. And if he had been wrong, every single thing he did would have made him Voldemort. That is what I cannot stop thinking about. That is the conclusion that changes how I read every single page of all 7 books. Not that Dumbledore was secretly evil, but that he was not. That he was a good man who used people as pieces. That he was a loving man who raised a child for slaughter. That he was the greatest wizard of his age who lied about socks to an 11-year-old. And that at the end of it all, he sat in a white place that looked like a train station and told Harry he was a better man than he. And he was right about that too. Albus Dumbledore is not the villain of the Harry Potter series, but he is a villain in the Harry Potter series. And the fact that most of us never saw it coming is the most impressive thing he ever did. Tell me in the comments where you disagree, because I want to hear it. This is the argument that splits people right down the middle, and I genuinely want to know which side you land on. If you are new here, subscribe. We go deeper into the wizarding world than anyone else on YouTube. The Severus Snape video is linked right here. If this video changed how you see Dumbledore, that one will change how you see Snape. Watch them back to back. The full picture is worth it. Until next time, mischief managed.